Hello racers, and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be continuing in the setup guide series with a review of the Speed Secrets by Ryan Maker setup guide. When in these setup guide reviews, what we do is take a look at the author, see what experience that they have. We'll take a look at the content of the book and see how it's written and such. So let's just dive right in. With Ryan's Speed Secrets, written by Ryan Maker. Ryan Maker is an Australian, 3-time national champion, 2016 world champion, 17. So this is a fella that has a lot of racing experience. It says in his little bio in the front that he's 23 years old and had been racing for 10 years. So this was a fella who started racing probably 13, 14 years old and has grown to be a national champion, state champion, and actually participated in the Worlds in a very short period of time. So well qualified to write a book, and he wrote a book to give other racers some insight into how to race at that level. The book itself. Well, the book itself, written in 2016. And it's written in the perspective of a racer building their car, preparing for a race event. So when you take a look at the content in the table of contents in the front, you'll see like the first section there is about the build and how to prepare your car for racing. You can see that the book also is from the perspective of touring cars, four-wheel drive electric touring cars. But the contents can be applied to other racing disciplines, indoor or outdoor. So you'll see the build, how to prepare the chassis, things to do for initial setup, like how to set initial droop and roll bars, servo alignment, that kind of stuff. A section on body mounting, give you an idea of how to mount the body for maximum downforce for your, for the track that you're going to go to. And tire prep. One thing that I noticed is that things that in the initial section, say an anti-roll bar, it's like how to put the roll bars on so that they're moving free, that they're level, that they're weighing both sides equally. And then you'll see in the later car setup section, a section about anti-roll bar for how to adjust it for the track. So it kind of breaks it down that way. So things to do at the bench you could think of in the build section, and then on the track you would look through the car setup section. So pretty interesting. And you can see a section on tire prep for racing on the day. Now we're gonna, with all these books, we'll focus on roll center just to kind of compare the concepts between each. One thing that he does mention in the car setup section is that he will talk about initial, middle, and exit, how the settings and adjustments affect those positions in a corner. So before I had a little diagram here that we can think about corner entry, mid-corner, and exit. And on corner entry, the car's loading the front. Mid-corner, it's pretty balanced, and exit, it's loading the rear of the car. So he acknowledges it. Now in this book, there's no tables that, like, say for initial entry, this is what you do, or exit. But what he'll do is that within a particular setting or adjustment, he'll talk about how it affects those three things. So that's a little bit interesting, and it shows that he has enough knowledge to break each adjustment down into where it applies. To give a little bit of focus on roll center. And the reason that I'm picking on roll center is because in the world of car setup, roll center is a bit misunderstood, and the philosophy has changed over time. So you can see that Ryan has broken roll center down into its components. You can see the section of roll center and how to adjust roll center on your suspension arms. And it goes on for a couple of pages. And then he talks about how to adjust roll center for camber links, using camber links, and then he talks about camber change with those upper links. So his main concept is that you adjust that the lower link is a more coarse adjustment, and the upper link is a more fine-tuned adjustment. Where this was written in 2016, high traction carpet had come out, and I just made a little diagram to show something. Now it's pretty primitive, so you bear with me for a second. So on the scale of low roll center to high roll center, on an old gray track, which went from a low grip track to a high grip, depending, you can see that to get more grip, you would use low roll center, and as the grip went up on the track, you would use a higher roll center. Now what has happened over time is that the new CRC Black, and there are other tracks now that are higher grip, low roll center is kind of used at the low end of that. Low grip, low roll center, and you work your way up to high roll center until you begin to traction roll, and then you start doing low roll center things. So then when we read Ryan's book, we'll just open to that page on roll center again, just to see what he says about it. So he talks about lowering the roll center. Let's see here. He says, a low roll center is generally good for high traction. So what he's talking about is a very high traction. Bring back the little chart again. So we got high grip using low roll center. So we're at this end of the roll center spectrum. So our previous setup guides will contain a lot of adjustments that tell you that as grip gets high, you use higher roll center to lessen your grip. But in Ryan's book, he actually says the reverse, because he's living in a high grip carpet world. Or maybe, other people live on a low grip dirt track or something, and with low grip you use low roll center. So that's his perspective. It's a little confusing when you first read it. So he has things like, if a track is low traction, roll may be required to generate traction in the middle and exit corner, and therefore lowering roll center will help. So it depends on the level of traction. And then he also says raising a roll center, a high roll center gives the impression of more traction on low traction conditions, because it increases the aggressiveness of the car. So what he's saying is that in low grip, that a higher roll center would work in that area, rather than the previous ideas that for low. So he's on this end of the scale, low grip, high roll center area. So he has because in that case it increases the initial traction, which is corner entry traction. So interesting concepts. Thought I'd point that out. So as these guides have evolved, so has the understanding, and it's more a matter of when do you need the traction, whether you need the traction entry, mid, or exit. But the real money to this book is in the section here. Take a look here. Combating key balance issues. So in this section, he gives like a step-by-step guide on how to combat key issues such as traction rolling, no traction and low grip, if you have a chronic understeer or chronic oversteer. Now I left that blank because that's his money. Those are his secrets to give. But I have seen this section of the book save racers races at big events, because they'll get there, traction will build, cars will start traction rolling from a low grip to a high grip, and he gives a step-by-step in priority of how to eliminate that traction roll. And in all the other sections works good too. In that car setup section, I'm not sure what order these are presented. They're definitely not alphabetically, and I believe that they're in order of priority. If he said it in the book, I didn't notice it, but I think they're in order of priority. After reading the book and seeing how particular that Ryan is on the details, I'm sure that he's put these in priority as to how he would adjust them. Now in that little section in the back, it is definitely priority. If you were traction rolling, do this first, do that second, do this third. So that's the money in this book. So after all that's said and done, what did I think of this book, and what have I experienced? Well, I've experienced firsthand that this book had saved a couple of racers nationals, helping to eliminate traction roll, and I've also seen it help them get into mains because they were able to, get more rear traction or something. So this book is top notch. The information in it is well worth the money. If I could have only one setup guide for my collection, this would be one of the ones that I would pick, just because it goes into that detail. It does have the newer concepts of when to apply things, like in our roll center example, when to apply the adjustment. So that's for me, that makes this one of my top picks for that. So if you can get it, I'll put the link to Ryan's website. He owns RC Maker. His book is available there. I'll put a link to that so that you can find it. So if you like this type of thing, if you have any ideas for other content, just put it in the comments, and subscribe for more of these setup guide series. We'll see you in the next video.